Hello, welcome back. Chapter 2, Section D, Sampling Methods. In this section, we will explain about sampling methods. Sampling methods are very important techniques used in market research to select a representative subset of a larger population for the purpose of gathering insights and data. Instead of examining every individual in a population, which can be impractical or costly, sampling allows researchers to draw conclusion from a smaller, manageable group that reflects the characteristic of the larger populations. So let's look together about the sampling different methods in business. So let's start with qualitative research. Qualitative research generally involves gathering data related to the attitudes, beliefs, and intentions. So qualitative is gathering data related to attitudes, beliefs, and intentions. Gathering data about attitudes, beliefs, and intentions. And techniques for collecting qualitative data are focus group and interviews are widely used. So generally, focus group and interviews are related with qualitative research. The information obtained through qualitative research is often considered open to a high level of interpretations. As a result, there might be disagreement within the business regarding the significance and relevance of qualitative research data. So we have interpretations challenge for qualitative data. The most important disadvantage of qualitative research is that it is considered to high level of interpretations. So important disadvantage of quality research is that it is considered open to high level of interpretations. So as a result, there may be disagreement within business regarding to significance and relevance of qualitative research data. Quantitative research. Quantitative research focuses on collecting measurable data. So the nature of quantitative research is to focus on collecting measurable data. In practice, this typically involves gathering statistical information such as sales figures and market share. So this is the nature of quantitative research, measurable data or numerical data. And for example, it involves a statistical information such as sales figures and market share. So common methods for collecting quantitative research are surveys and government publications. And the information obtained through quantitative research is generally considered to be less open to interpretation compared to data gathered through the qualitative research. So qualitative research is open to interpretations, but quantitative research can bridge this gap by less open to interpretations. Quantitative data are measurable or numerical data. For example, statistical information such as sales figures and market shares. And common methods of collecting quantitative research are surveys and government publication. And these methods of research, quantitative research, is less open to interpretation. Sampling in the market research. Sampling is a critical technique in market research used to gather insights from representative subset of a larger target populations instead of surveying every individual within the target population, which is often impractical. Businesses use sampling to collect data from smaller and manageable groups. So in an ideal situation, a survey would gather information from individual within the target populations. So in the ideal situation, samples will gather from the every individual. The target population encompasses all the individuals whose opinion a business seeks to understand. So this group may include individual customers, household, or other businesses. But there is a problem. If your population is limited, you have not too much problem and trouble to gather the information. If your population, for example, is 30%, 50%, or also 100%, this is practical. But in the large populations, when you want to consider the large society, the sampling in the ideal situation is not possible. For example, conducting research in this manner can be time consuming and expensive, or also impractical. So it is time and your money. Until this moment, we speak about time and money with together. When we speak about the cost of business, don't consider these two elements in the cost of business: time and money. So it could be time consuming and expensive for sampling in market research. Sample size in market research. A sample size plays an important role in market research and affecting the accuracy and reliability of the data collected. So a sample consists of significantly smaller groups. So in the past example, I said that if you have more than 100% in the sample, we want to separate significantly to a smaller group to become practical, and also we save the time and money as a cost of business. However, it is important that the behavior and opinion of the samples accurately reflect those of entire populations. So these smaller groups that we make it to become the research practical, it is important to accurately reflect those of entire populations. The size of sample can impact reliability of the information collected. So larger samples tend to be more representative of the populations and making them more beneficial for businesses, and using larger sample can be more costly. So the advantage of larger samples is that they are more representative of the populations, but the disadvantage is that they are more costly, and creating a trade-off between expense and the desired level of accuracy should be considered. For a survey to yield meaningful results, a sample size of at least 10% of the populations is recommended. So, the samples consist of significantly smaller groups, but it is important that this smaller group accurately reflect the entire populations. The size of sample can be impact the reliability of the information collected. Larger samples are more representative of the populations. What we are happy with that, but the larger sample are more costly or more expensive. What we are not happy with that. But what is important is to create a trade-off or suitable balance between expense and desired level of accuracy. Between expense and desired level of accuracy, you need to make suitable balance or trade-off. Let's continue with the next topic, random sampling in market research. So random sampling is a fundamental technique used in market research to make sure that every individual in the target population has an equal chance of being selected for a survey or a study. So Again, random sampling ensures that each member of a group has an equal probability of being selected. In other words, sample is chosen randomly. In the random selections, every member have an equal probability of being selected, and in the modern computers can generate random list of numbers which serves as the foundation for selecting sample. This is the meaning of random sampling. But what are the limitations of random sampling? While random sampling is widely used and valuable method in market research, it does come with certain limitations or disadvantages that can affect the accuracy and representativeness of the data collected. So these are limitations or the elements that we are not happy with that about the random sampling. So this method assumes that all members of group are identical, which is not always true. So this method assumes that all members of the group are identical, which is not always true. What is the meaning of this? Random sampling operates under the assumption that all members of the group are identical in terms of their characteristics and opinion, which is rarely the case. For example, if a company conducts a random sample of 100 individuals from a city, this sample might not adequately represent various demographic factors such as age, income, or lifestyle, and leading to skewed results. In fact, in random sampling, we have the assumption of homogeneity that is not always true. Next element, the small samples selected in this manner may not be accurately reflect the characteristic of the entire populations. As a result, a much larger sample would need to be collected to guarantee representations. Additionally, compiling a complete list of entire populations and then reaching out to interview them would be costly for a business. So because of homogeneity assumptions give us not accuracy informations, we need to gather much larger samples that would be costly. Again, because of homogeneity assumptions or the group are identical assumptions that is not true. Because of these assumptions give us not accurate result of sampling, we need to collect much larger samples, and collecting the much larger samples would be costly or expensive. And this is the limitations of random sampling. Let's continue with quota sampling. Quota sampling involves dividing the target population into several groups based on specific characteristics. These characteristics may include factors such as age and genders. And interviewers are then assigned targets for the number of individuals they must interview for each group. This is quota samplings. So the quota sampling is also some advantage and disadvantage. The primary benefits or advantage of this sampling method is cost effectiveness compared to techniques. The most important advantage of quota sampling is it is cost effectiveness compared to other techniques. It is particularly valuable when proportions of various groups within the population are known. However, the disadvantage of quota sampling, what we are sad with that, is that the results obtained from quota sampling are not statistically representative of this entire populations, as the samples are not selected randomly. Next is stratified sampling. In the stratified sampling is a other form of random sampling, and in this method the sample is divided into segments or strata based on existing knowledge about the population compositions. For example, if a market researcher is studying consumer preferences across various income brackets, they might create a strata such as low income strata or middle income strata and high income strata to ensure that each income group is adequately represented. This approach is favored because it enhances the representativeness of the samples in relation to the entire groups. So it is enhance or increase the representativeness of the sample in relation to entire groups. For example, by including individuals from each income brackets in proportions to their presence in the general populations, the researchers ensure that the final sample reflects the income distribution accurately. Thank you so much for your attention.